like to welcome everyone also on behalf of the FPA, and also congratulate the medalists tonight. And as a former medalist, I know how much it really meant to me and my family. So I hope it means a great deal to all of you. Again, a round of applause for the medalists. I would like to share with you for a few minutes while you're having dinner and dessert before we move on to the rest of the program, a few thoughts about the World Leadership Forum, which this dinner is a culmination of that, and what we do in the forum, and what it means, and what are the kinds of things that we're trying to achieve. And secondly, offer you a little bit of my own perspective on a special topic that is very of important consequence in the world right now. So the forum offers very insightful perspectives that are honed at the highest levels of business, government, and academia. That's what we do throughout the year with the World Leadership Forum. And in today's very rapidly changing world of geopolitics, national and international movements that we heard about, and country, regional, and global economics, and all the forces shaping the world there, our presenters at the forum throughout the year help you not only analyze and predict the future, or at least give you the crystal ball to predict the future, but also try to shape it so that we feel that we're not just observers, participants in what is happening in the world, but also in the middle of the action. So over the last 19 years, the forum has focused relentlessly on creating that future, envisioning that future of our community of nations in the world. And this year, the work of the forum has been no exception. We have heard in the forum from the best and the brightest minds in terms of China's strategy towards the world, what is happening in Wall Street, what is happening in the global economy, and of course, tonight, you have heard the first half of the best and the brightest minds in two great topics that were presented on journalism and social movements in the world. And wait till we hear the second half of the evening. So I myself would like to, again, take this opportunity for a few minutes to highlight a topic of immense importance and relevance in the future of nations around the world, especially in the future of the US as the remaining sole superpower in the world, and China as an emerging power and superpower in the world. The history of our human race over millennia has witnessed the benefits of exchanges between tribes, then nations, and now countries and regions of the world. These exchanges have took the form or have taken the form of flow of ideas, innovation, people moving from one place to another, goods and services, and importantly, capital. Recently, various countries and regions around the world have started restricting the flow of people in their countries, i.e., restricting immigration. They have also started restricting the exchange of products and services, i.e., restrictions on trade. Some of this has happened for good reasons, because maybe this is not just, maybe the trade wasn't fair, maybe it wasn't balanced, or whatever. And some of it has happened for other ulterior motives, like strong nationalism or mercantilism to gain advantage in the world. The world today is trying to adapt to that paradigm through new trade agreements, new forms of control of immigration, and the like. And that's okay. We have to sort of live with the consequences of that world, and how do we adapt to that. But up until now, the nations of the world, especially the most advanced nations, have not started restricting the flow of capital among countries or among regions of the world. Over the last few months, though, in the US, which is I'm a citizen of, very proud immigrant citizen of the United States, the US Congress and the US administration actually a refugee, political refugee for 7 years that eventually worked my way to convince the US Immigration Service not to deport me and to make me a citizen. But anyhow, it's the story of many of us living in America, right? So anyhow, over the last few months in the US Congress and the US administration, there have been a few proposals that have started to circulate to take the trade war with China to a financial war by restricting or prohibiting American capital from investing in Chinese companies. Many of you saw some of the news that eventually became public about certain of those restrictions, such as should we allow Chinese companies to list in a US exchange like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, or should we ban them from raising capital in the United States? Should we restrict American pension funds, particularly government employee pension funds, from investing in Chinese companies? I run an index business, and so does my good friend Doug Peterson, who runs S&P Global. And the other proposal was, should we prohibit US firms that create benchmarks of portfolios, of equity portfolios around the world, from including in their indices Chinese companies? Should we restrict companies that do rating agencies, credit ratings, from creating ratings of Chinese companies to deprive them of American and the capital from the rest of the world? These are pretty serious issues which are very alarming and very concerning that I would like to highlight today, because if implemented, some of these issues can lead to very significant and enormous negative consequences to the funding and the financing of companies and governments and the like from around the world. So, for example, if we take the view from the US that we should not allow Chinese companies to have access to equity capital, fixed income capital from American sources, what about if the Chinese say, all right, that's what you want to do, we also should not allow Chinese entities from buying American government bonds, which they own $1.5 trillion of, and the like. So these proposals have been a little bit misguided in my view, because the total sum of money invested in Chinese bonds and Chinese equities listed domestically in China, not the foreign ones, but it's probably $100 billion or plus. But the funding that goes to the US government is $1.1 trillion, which is a big part of the $6.5 trillion of US government bonds but that are held by foreign entities in the world. So we have to be cautious how we look at the world and the like. So if we, presumably and admittedly, one of the leaders of the world in terms of society, freedom, democracy, economics, and the like in America, begin to restrict flow of capital for political reasons, why should France not restrict capital? Why should Germany not do the same? Why should the UK not do the same? Why should an emerging market, Turkey, Argentina, which they're doing it right now, put exchange controls and start limiting the flow of capital? So I believe, and so some of you may have to be the judge of that, that it is one thing to disrupt supply chains in the world, and another thing to severely disrupt financial institutions around the world, banks, exchanges, pension funds, mutual funds, and the like. We probably will have more negative consequences in that disruption. So therefore, like we do in the FPA forum, as an example here, I'd like to encourage all of you to read and understand this issue, help try to avoid it, or at least manage it in a way that is beneficial, and like we always say at FPA, help us shape the future for the next generations to come right after us. So before we continue with the program, I would like also to share with you a brief clip that tells you a lot about what we do at the Foreign Policy Association. Thank you very much.
It began as an ideal, shared by visionaries who saw a world where American foreign policy was debated not only in think tanks and universities, but in community centers, libraries, and homes across the country.
Klamath Falls has what is called a Great Decisions Group. There are about 15,000 of them across the country.
Military action is the only action that keeps the communists contained anywhere.
Would you go to war over Vietnam and Laos?
I certainly would do anything to find one all-out war over there.
They imagined an organization that would inform us all to shape the future. An organization dedicated to gathering the best research and offering the facts of world issues without bias. Knowledge made accessible and shared to change our world for the better.
Tonight I am speaking as a guest of the Foreign Policy Association, a nationwide organization, a distinguished organization.
People keep inquiring whether I would do it all over again. My answer is yes. The problem is no one has asked me.
I would like to express my appreciation to the Foreign Policy Association for helping bring this group together today.
Today, the FPA's flagship Great Decisions program is the largest discussion program on global affairs. Each week at community centers nationwide, participants read the Great Decisions briefing book and watch the television series before discussing and debating the most critical global issues facing America. In high schools and universities across the country, graduates of FPA's Teacher Training Institute design Great Decisions courses for their students. In their homes, millions of Americans watch the Emmy-nominated Great Decisions television series on public television, delivering essential background and diverse perspectives, challenging viewers to make their own great decisions.
I am very happy to have participated in the Great Decision programs and the work of the Foreign Policy Association. There needs to be more education in terms of what is going on abroad in order to fully understand how it affects our own people.
And in New York City, the FPA continues to attract world leaders to engage its members and the public.
I think this organization can make a major contribution to fulfilling our responsibilities as a people.
I have been for many years, long before I was in the United States Senate, a great admirer of this institution and what it's done and what it does. And I think the role it will continue to play in a very complicated world.
Through its balanced, nonpartisan programs and publications, the FPA encourages Americans to discuss and debate world issues and to participate in the foreign policy process. For a century, the Foreign Policy Association has operated under the mantra that a properly functioning democracy depends on an informed citizenry, a beacon that will illuminate our next century. Thank you for your support and for your participation.